This is an expat alert just 7 hours ago. 7 hours ago, the US military re-entered Syria. And you may say, why did they re-enter Syria? Why did they perform airstrikes in Syria after respectively doing it in Nigeria, taking over Venezuela, potentially threatening Russia by taking their oil tanker? Why would they also do this to Syria in record time? If that's the question you're asking, well, I have news for you. Something happened a month ago in Syria, okay? What happened was that the American military was in Syria, but 2 soldiers were killed. They're citing it that it was about a month ago. This is coming from Fox News. It had 1 million views in 7 hours. And so this was a revenge strike against Syria. President Donald Trump is telling the entire world. He's saying, look, whatever you do to Americans, we will do back to you. If you hurt our military, we're gonna come in. We don't care how many regions we're in. We don't care what else is happening in the world. We don't care who doesn't like it, because by the way, North Korea's Jong-un has just started practicing sending nukes into the air, sending missiles into the air to show the world that he is also militarily ready. And he said it's because the world is growing in escalations. And let me break down why this matters for expats, because it definitely does. If you're not an expat, you may not understand, but Syria obviously is in the Middle East. It has a land border that's pretty close to Israel. So it's in the Middle East, and Egypt's not far from Israel, Doha, Qatar. These are places where Americans typically have a layover, not necessarily in Syria, but in a Doha, Qatar. And last year in 2025, in July, when the US did strikes on Iran, the air systems of that entire region were down, meaning if you had a flight coming into Africa, coming out of Africa, you were not bordering that flight and going through the Middle East. You would have had to go through Asia or maybe like the Caribbean or something like that. And this is exactly why we do one of our group workshops called the State of the Diaspora. It's really the state of the diaspora in Africa and the world, so that the diaspora can understand what is happening, what do I need to do as I'm going out, which territories am I able to go in, because your safety value is more than saving a buck on a cheap flight or going this route and risking losing your life when an airstrike is happening in real time or being delayed, and then you have to deal with issues on the ground because now everybody's looking at you as an American like, okay, why are you guys striking everybody? Okay, so this is why expats actually join the State of the Diaspora. We have 7 spots that are available. Now we're doing it, it's an emergency session about all the geopolitical risk factors and our top 5 countries that you would relocate to in Africa. In the south of Africa, there's only one that's stable in the west of Africa. Most of them are in the south: Botswana, Mauritius, Seychelles, one in East Africa, Rwanda. These are the only countries that you need to be looking at if you're one of those people that's like, hey, I'm still going to leave America. I'm still exiting the West. You may want to attend this meeting, but here's the thing. Like I said, our channel has been blowing up. Videos getting 62,000 views, 30,000 views, collectively over 4 million views. There's so many people that watch this channel that are ready to exit the West. And so I'm not sure if all 7 spots are going to be available. So while they are available, while I'm announcing it, go ahead and hit the link down below. Your ticket's $100. Now, there's a verse that pops up in my mind that I used to be so confused about. 1,000 would fall at your left side, 10,000 at your right hand would come nigh to you and fall, but they would not come nigh to you. Only with your eyes would you see and behold the reward of the wicked, because you have made Yahuwah El Elyon your habitation. I used to be so confused. How could 1,000 people fall at your left side and 10,000 at your right hand? How would that happen? But we are seeing in real time that Babylon is fallen and will fall. But before they fall, they are going to start issues with the entire world, or do what Trump said and end issues and bring peace. But here's what could really happen. Russia and North Korea and China could decide, you know what, alone we're not strong enough. But there's nothing like unity outside of the states. When you come outside of America and you live outside of America like we have for 6 years, you start to understand other nations, especially Asians. They're all on the Asian continent. Unify much better than Americans. I mean, look at America, Denmark, and Greenland. That's not unification, right? And so you're seeing the division of the Western powers, and the unification of the Eastern powers is prophesied. And you're coming into a world where America may also become occupied by some of these guys. And this is why Trump is worried. He's like, we have to own Greenland. We don't need Russia and China coming in to jump us up there. And it's a valid concern because he understands that these people will typically unify and basically jump America, like all coming in, trying to invade. And the US right now, I believe, is positioning and practicing. You may say, well, why are they doing this in Syria? Why are they doing this in Nigeria? They did it in Iran in July 2025. They're doing stuff in Venezuela. They captured a Russian oil tanker. Why are they doing all of this at once? You would think war would typically be, I'm going to focus on one country. They are not focused on one country right now because this is practice. We had the practice before with the ICE agents. They're literally out here just slaughtering American people, the National Guard going into cities in America. And it looked like, why are they turning against their own people? That was practice to see how fast they could mobilize. Now they're at the next stage of practice, which is like, okay, let's see how many territories that we can deal with in a reasonable time frame to see the effectiveness of our military. I believe that is what's happening. I believe that's what we're seeing in real time. And I believe this moment that's transpiring right now is a moment that we will not be able to go back in time. This is why I say Southern Africa is the only safe place. People say, oh my gosh, how is that possible? Understand, if you're not watching WW3 simulations to see how this turns out, you may want to study those today, because in these WW3 simulations, they say that only Southern Africa, Mauritius, New Zealand, and Australia, and the island nations that are around these areas would even survive. The rest of humanity would be wiped out and living in bunkers and experiencing basically an ice age if everybody decides to nuke each other. You know, my father, may he rest in peace, as well as my grandfather, was in the Air Force, and he would always do like these military simulations and different types of things when I was a child. And now that I think about it, that's probably why I like to watch stuff like that. But it's also advantageous because more of you need to be aware of these things. They exist on YouTube for free for you to look at and understand and say, oh, we are in a life or death scenario, because once this stuff transpires and escalates beyond the point of no return, there is no hopping on a flight to get to Mauritius. There is no hopping on a flight to get to Angola, Botswana, Rwanda, Oceania, Tuvalu, Australia, New Zealand. Once the height of the escalation is happening, everybody around the world is going to be on lockdown. And so you have to decide right now for yourself, do I want to be locked down in America, or do I want to be locked down in the global south, where the true Goshens, the last Goshens on earth, are going to be as prophesied in the scriptures? And you may feel like, this is just doing too much, I can't take anymore, but I encourage you to get strength, because it's not going to stop. What you're seeing right now is just the beginning of the birthing pains, the beginning of the evils that are going to come upon. And it's almost like, as Revelation says, a vial has been put out just when the clock struck January 1st, which isn't really truly the new year, but it's interesting because it seems like a spirit of war has gone out across the entire world. And so the entire world is ready. By the way, President Donald Trump also stated, I'm also ready for Iran. He said, if you shoot one protester, the Iranian government is evil according to the Iranians. The Iranians are protesting. Now, similar to Venezuela, you talk to these people in these nations, they will tell you that they will side with Donald Trump. They have Western people in there that are organizing these things, Israelis, Americans, that are potentially arrested right now in Iran. And so if, again, you are traveling in the next few months, you want to fly through Western Europe, the Caribbean, or Asia, the Middle East, it can pop off at any time. This is why I'm not a big fan of living anywhere near the Middle East, including a Egypt, a Tunisia, obviously not Tunisia. As beautiful as it is, as ancient and wonderful, in times of war, there is only one place that I'd want to be in, And I happen to be living here, all praises to the Most High. And it happens to be really easy to live here. It happens to be easy to stay for 3, 4, then 10 years, then renew for 20 years. These are the things that matter. These are the things the Most High has set up before the beginning of time, because he knew all this was transpire, and that you and I would be on the earth, that we would be his chosen children, and that we would need a location of safety to grow our families and continue our heritage. Because something that Christianity often forgets, that Torah and the Old Testament and the prophets don't forget, is the whole reason that Yah came as Yahusha in the body, so that he could save the lineage of the world, the lineage, the seed, the children's children. That was always his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so to just give up on the lineage doesn't make sense. To just give up on the lineage is not scriptural, is not biblical, is not right to do. The people you see in the Bible, they would always find a way, the ones that survived anyway and were blessed. Make that clear, because obviously you have people in the wilderness that complained and passed in the wilderness. Obviously you have people disobedient who are in iniquity who passed due to their iniquities without repentance. But you had people like King David. You had people like Isaiah, Jeremiah. You had people like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. You had people like Judith, like Esther. All these people whose main goal was to preserve their nation's lineage and their lineage. And let us not forget that, like, when AI is happening, when pandemics could be coming, when people are at this happiest phase of nobody needs children, the world can hate children, let us remember that that is demonic. It's just as dangerous as somebody starting a war, to have this mindset towards your own nation, your own lineage, your own children. Because humanity, there's not going to be many humans left after this goes into full escalation. I'm sorry to tell you, but I have to tell you the truth. I've read Revelations and I believe it wholeheartedly. And so I've come to the conclusion by reading it over and over and over and over. There's going to be a large portion of humans that do not make it. The only way to make it is to prepare. Joseph prepared. Abraham prepared. Isaac prepared and got 100-fold increase when he prepared. Jacob prepared when he wrestled the angel and decided to prepare for his blessings. Prepare. Now. Shalom, shalom.